Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort in commentary, Ashton, and this is our NXT review. And I think my cohort in commentary here summed up this episode perfectly. This is a very story-driven episode of NXT, had some great matches, a really interesting main event, and just everything in between seems to make me curious about who the future contenders for all the championships are going to be. Ashton, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I did enjoy this show a lot. It was actually a relatively, how do I put this? There wasn't a lot of different stuff going on. Like, a lot of the time you'll have match, backstage segment, interview, match, interview, match, video package, match. You know, like, there's always a lot of stuff between the matches. But for my notes, we had 5 matches tonight, and there were only, there was only 2 promos. There only was 1 promo. There was 1 promo this whole night, plus an Enzo Cass video, 1 video package, and then if you want to count the post-match Itami Victor stuff as kind of like that kind of segment, then that would be 4. So even though we had 5 matches tonight, we actually had less non-match segments than we had matches, which is extremely strange for NXT, and even stranger that, even despite that, I would still say that this was a very storyline-heavy NXT because of the stories that were told in the ring and immediately after matches that happened.
Right, I would completely agree with you on that point. NXT is normally known to achieve some kind of equilibrium between the backstage content and the in-ring product, but yeah, it seemed more heavy-handed in the case of the latter, the in-ring product, but still made for a great show to progress certain stories. So with that in mind, I think we can get right into our first segment, Heat of the Night. And I have absolutely no heats of the night tonight. Ashton, what about you?
No, I don't have any heats of the night. I just want to, before we actually get to the segment where we talk about it, I just want to throw out one thing here that we've talked about before, so I don't really want to hammer on it too long because I'm sure the last time we talked about it, we already did. Becky Lynch seriously needs to drop the freaking headbanging crap. We get that you have a rocker gimmick, but I can't tell if you're supposed to be a rocker or Willow Smith.
Yeah, I know you're not fond of the gimmick. I personally,
No. I don't mind the gimmick. I don't mind the rocker chick gimmick, but the hair whipping is what is obnoxious, and it's unnecessary to kind of get forward the fact that she's a rocker chick.
So I think, to put it more succinctly, the excessiveness of the gimmick, I
yes,
think is kind of annoying you a little bit.
Yeah. And really, I was excited at first because it seemed like she had really toned down the screaming, like the guttural screams that she was doing the last time she showed up on NXT, but then she continued to kind of do that a few times during the match, and it was just as annoying.
We'll see if Becky Lynch undergoes any refinements. With the roster rotation that NXT has adopted, we don't know when we'll see Becky Lynch in a ring again, so we'll have to really take note the next time she's in a ring if she's changed at all. But this seems to be the direction going forward. I'm kind of with you. I liked it more when she originally got rid of her Irish pandering gimmick, and just seemed like more like leveled out, and then they just went to the other side of the spectrum all over again. So hopefully she can level out again and just stay the course, because I think she has a very bright future. I like Becky Lynch very much. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we both do. I mean, it's not a matter of whether we like her or not. We both acknowledge that she's she's got a lot of potential. She's good in the ring. She has a charm and a charisma to her. It's just a matter of not even just finding the right gimmick, but finding the right degree of which you use your gimmick.
Right. I think that was beautifully said. I won't even add on to that. I think you summed that up perfectly. So unless you have anything else you want to say, we can get right into our formal review. All right, so with that said, we get to our NXT review. And we open things up with Tyler Breeze versus Mojo Rawley, though I think it would be a bit of an overstatement to call this any kind of a match, Ashton.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you could say it was a one-sided match, but Mojo was backing Tyler into the corner a few times. Tyler got to play the cowardly role for a minute or two before kind of turning it on. But yeah, for the most part, this was just Breeze taking advantage of Mojo's injured shoulder, locking him into an R-bar, and then the ref calling the match on account of Mojo being a bitch, I guess?
I really like that we got to see the cerebral side of Tyler Breeze here, because he shows such a presence of
I
psychology
don't even know if I would call
in
it the
this match.
cerebral side. I think I would just call it the sadistic side.
Sadistic, but at the same time, like you noted, Mojo Rawley's shoulder was injured. So to me, that shows a presence of mind from Tyler Breeze that, hey, even though the beauty shot is effective, if I really want to go in for the kill, why don't I go where the guy has a bullseye? And
Which
so he
is
switches
why
to
I
the
say sadistic, because he takes pleasure in putting other people through pain.
Well, I think both of our descriptions would work. I wouldn't debate yours, but I think at the same time, again, like I said, to have the awareness of what your guy's hurting with going in and just saying, hey, let me try this. And admittedly, I didn't really like the execution of Tyler Breeze's armbar. I didn't think there was really enough torque on it for my liking. It really didn't look all that painful to me. But then again, what do I know? But yeah, Tyler Breeze does get, I guess, the give-up win, because I didn't see Mojo formally tap out, but the ref just called it. So I guess the ref wanted to forfeit for Mojo's own health. So yeah, Tyler Breeze wins, and I think he's slowly inching back up to that contendership picture.
Yeah. Breeze is definitely in a place where you feel like he should get a one-on-one shot for the title, but on that same note, it's like he did kind of have an opportunity and he did kind of blow it, but he didn't get pinned, and Tyson Kidd did, but he still got another shot, so why can't Tyler Breeze get another shot?
Exactly. I'm waiting for the one-on-one rematch, Tyler Breeze versus Adrian Neville, because the first one ended in DQ anyway. So, and as you said, Ashton, and at NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way, Tyler Breeze didn't eat the pin, despite the fact that, yes, he did get a legitimate opportunity. So hopefully that narrative comes back into focus here, and that's how we get Tyler Breeze back in the ring with Adrian Neville one more time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm guessing that'll probably happen sometime later this month, possibly like early to mid-November even, because obviously they're going to take the last month leading up to the next live special to build up to Zayn Neville.
Yeah, I'm thinking mid-November is my mental timetable, especially considering what we saw tonight. So
I would agree with that. All right, so after the ref calls the match and this whole thing kind of ends, we got a video from Enzo and Big Cass where I think it's the storyline is kind of starting to play out that Enzo wants to get with Carmella, and he's trying to use his pull on NXT as a tool to advance his relationship or potential relationship with Carmella. He talks to William Regal about getting her a tryout. He brings Regal over to a practice ring where she's working on some sequences, I guess, and she hits this girl with a drop kick and then puts her in a really cool looking like leg applied sleeper hold almost submission. And Regal's impressed, and I think he said that he gave her a match next Thursday. Was that what it was?
it was a tryout. That's how they labeled it.
Okay. But so then Enzo is all excited, and he tells her that he didn't say we. I made special, I made note to pay actual attention to what exactly the words were that he said. He didn't say we. He said, I got you a tryout match. And she looked at Big Cass and runs over to him and hugs him. Like, how does that even make sense? Like, I understand that you're trying to put forward this storyline, but if he said, I got you the tryout match, why is she celebrating with Cass?
I don't know, man. I'm hoping this doesn't lead to any kind of dissension between these two.
And
I doubt it
that's
will.
what I'm scared of, too, because a lot of people, even on Reddit, are saying, I really hope this doesn't lead to Enzo, ending things with Cass because he's got the jealousy thing going on. Like, please don't let that happen.
That would be such a momentum killer for everybody involved.
I know, right?
Because this act is so hot that keeping them together is going to be far more beneficial than tearing them apart for the sake of one storyline. However, to backtrack a bit and focus on what actually happened, I really do like how they're showcasing Carmella to us, how they're making her introduction into the NXT universe. Now, for me personally, I would keep up this theme, and I would have Big Cass kind of sitting somewhere in the audience in wherever room like the tryout takes place, recording it, and then she can make like her live, like actual TV debut at a later time once her tryout's successful. But it probably will be in the ring, which is fine too. I'm just really liking the story they're telling with Carmella. I think it's a unique way to debut somebody, and I've just been having fun with it.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the way that they're going about doing this. They're making a big deal out of it without trying to build her up as this big deal. They're making a big deal out of it in the fact that they're really putting a highlight on her, but they're not building her up like this great technical wrestler or really anything other than just Enzo's pal that he wants to get with. So really our only expectations are she's going to show up, she's going to look good, she's probably going to be green. And on that same note, there's hype behind her because it's like, oh man, this Carmella chick, they've been talking about her for over a month now. I can't wait to see what she can do, how much she's progressed, what she's capable of in the ring. So it's a great balance where they're not putting a ton of expectations on her shoulders, but they're still putting enough highlighting on her that you really feel like she's a big deal now.
That was excellently said. I can't really add much to that. Do you want to move on?
Up next, we had a video package for the Itami Ascension feud that's been going on since Itami debuted. And then that leads us directly into a match between Hideo Itami and Victor.
Let me ask you something, Ashton, to kind of
Sure.
give you the ball early. Was I the only one, I should say, that felt a little bit uncomfortable watching this match? Not because of what
Hideo Itami felt very sloppy during this match.
Not only very slightly, and I think the crowd noticed it too, because their silence, dude, really bothered me.
It was awkward because they didn't know how to react, because it was like one of those things where he would hit a move that you would expect to get a big pop, but the move itself was awkward somehow, and the crowd like didn't know if it was supposed to be a big move or not. Like the corner drop kick, like he went for it and he hit it, but there was something off about it. Like it didn't seem like it was a corner drop kick. It just seemed like he kind of dove at Victor and curled his legs up and landed on him. You know what I mean? Like there was just something off about all of the stuff in his arsenal that was supposed to pop the crowd, and because of that, they just didn't pop.
I'm so glad you cited the corner dropkick, Ashton, because that was the move of the match that honestly made me cringe, because it just looked so bad to me.
It was so off, and there were even I think after that, because Connor did had an appearance. He showed up at the top of the ramp, and I keep on trying to think of distraction. Connor tried to do a distraction with Funaki. He had apparently beaten down Funaki beforehand and dragged his borderline lifeless body out to the top of the ramp. And so we were all thinking, okay, well, this is how they're going to let Itami lose without looking bad. And Itami ended up winning anyway, but he went off the rope to do whatever kick it is that he did. And even when he hit the rope, it looked awkward. Like the way he hit the rope, it seemed like he wasn't transferring his momentum properly. And he's really, really awkward in the ring right now, and I think it's something that he's going to have to grow into, but I also have to wonder why exactly, like what part of the transition is difficult for him that he's having trouble making.
That's kind of perplexing me as well, but I will say this. Thank goodness for NXT. This match, despite its awkwardness and sloppiness, shows you the invaluable nature of NXT, because imagine, Ashton, if we hot-shotted Raw to the main roster, and yes, this match took place on Raw.
Yeah.
That would be so awful for him. And don't get me wrong, guys, I have not withdrawn any support from Hideo. In fact, quite the contrary. After this match, I'm putting more in there because I want to see him succeed and work the kinks out. But that's why I'm so grateful to NXT, because this match showed me he has a long way to go. I know projections were like they wanted to get him off the ground and out of here maybe within like 6 months, and maybe they can still fulfill that timetable. But let me tell you something. Timetables mean squat if you don't get your investment back. You take your sweet time with that, and you make sure you work every kink out, because I still believe he can be a big attraction, but that match just showed me. I don't know if it's just a transition from the Japanese to American style.
I'm convinced it's a ring size problem, dude, because I don't know what size ring he's used to, but every time I notice him botching or doing something that just feels kind of awkward. It's got something to do with him either overextending or underextending to reach the ropes or the corner. Like with the drop kick, it was like he didn't jump far enough to reach his opponent, and he ended up just kind of landing in front of him. Or with like the running the ropes, it seems like he is underestimating how far away they are, and then kind of like stutter stepping his way to them.
I think that's a great observation, and I think a guy like Triple H or whoever is working personally with Hideo will be able to work that out. And you know they're going to be committed to it because they've given him so much hype. I think he's like another pet project alongside the likes of Adrian Neville and others. So I'm sure they'll smooth everything over. But to cite something positive about Hideo, you had mentioned that he still got the win even after Connor came out and he was ragdolling Funaki on the stage. After the match, Connor comes down, he brings Hideo down, and pretty soon they've got the numbers game on him, this and that, they're really beating him down. Funaki tries, he practically just like limps into the ring with whatever little life he has left, but then he quickly gets taken down. And then my favorite part of this, the Ascension wraps Hideo up in the ropes, and they make him watch as they brutalize Funaki, ending with the fall of man. And for the second straight time, because we noted this the last time we saw Hideo when he encountered his friend Funaki the first time, and Funaki said, "I'm here to help you." He emotes so wonderfully, and his emotional and physical selling of like the pain going on around him or to him, I think is just really exceptional. So that's one thing I think he's really hit the nail on the head with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the emoting, like you said, and the kind of just like the overall acting aspect of it. He seems like a natural.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it's on that end, it's there, which is so bizarre because here's this guy coming from Japan who is known best for his in-ring work. And in Japan, I know they do have storylines, but they don't. Let me just put it this way. I know they have storylines and they still need to be able to act and cut promos and that kind of stuff, but it is far less emphasized in Japan compared to the way it is in the WWE. The WWE, that is the number one thing. There is basically the way the WWE works is you only need to be good enough in the ring, because as long as the most important part is acting, promos, basically your personality. The ring stuff, like I said, there is a level of importance there, but it's incredibly minor as long as you're good enough. Like with Cena, Hogan, they were never great more specifically Hogan. They were never great and Warrior, I would say too. They were never great in the ring, but they were good enough that they could get carried to a good match, and they had this huge over-the-top personality. That's what the WWE is all about. Japan's the exact opposite. In Japan, your in-ring work is number one, most important. That's the thing that matters the most. And Kenta's coming from that culture, and yet his ring work is his weak point right now because certain awkward things are going on, and his acting is his strong suit, which is freaking weird because it's just so de-emphasized in Japan. And now it's like he's stepping into a pond where everybody is supposed to be a good actor, and he's still standing out for that.
Yeah, it really is bizarro world, because here's a man who we laud him for influencing the likes of CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, of all people, and yet what is the most positive commentary we have consistently about Hideo for the moment? And it is, yes, his acting ability. So with that said, they lay Funaki out. Hideo is just there to watch. They had a WWE.com exclusive where Funaki was stretchered out. Hideo just looked so helpless that he couldn't help his friend. So this war between the Ascension and Hideo rages on, and we'll see what Hideo's next move is in due time.
Yeah. Did we already talk about the post-match with Funaki?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Did we talk about the WWE.com exclusive?
Yes, we did.
Where Funaki got stretchered out?
Yes.
Okay. Vaudevillains versus Enzo and Big Cass. And really the only notable things here are Vaudevillains win, but it doesn't really matter because Big Cass pulled off a Hey Arnold joke, and that's all that matters.
Yes! And quick side note, Vaudevillains do have t-shirts, and they look awesome. But yes, that was the highlight of the match for me. It wasn't even what happened in the ring. It's what happened outside of it, because Enzo and Big Cass come out, and they do their usual shtick, and then, I think it was Big Cass who said, you guys come out here flexing like you're Arnold, but it's more like, hey, Arnold, because you should have never stepped off the stoop.
Yeah.
And I died. I thought about so many friends in that moment who would have appreciated that reference. And then just to show you how badass the NXT universe is compared to most WWE crowds, though Brooklyn this past Monday was pretty phenomenal at times, they started a chant, "Stoop kid's afraid to leave his stoop." Like, incredible. I love NXT. It was great. And just to quickly surmise the matchup, Azure was pretty much on point. Vaudevillains win. Big Cass got some nice offense in there when he got the hot tag, pretty much showing that he's still just really going to be something whenever the time comes that he breaks off into singles. That high knee, though, from a guy of his height is a thing of beauty. But yeah, the Vaudevillains are able to isolate it back to Enzo, able to take Colin Cassidy out. The Steamroller combined with the Senton. I don't know if there will ever be a name for their tag team finisher, but Vaudevillains win again. I can't wait for their rematch against the Lucha Dragons for the tag titles.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, to say the very least. I like that they're actually using NXT television time to really build up a challenger for the Lucha Dragons, rather than what they did with the Ascension, where they just kind of used the TV time to build up the Ascension.
Right. Yeah, I think they're really doing it right this time. And I think you could say that for virtually every title on NXT right now.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the night, you even said you want to know what the challengers are going to be for every title, but I think it's slowly becoming more and more obvious what's going to happen at the next live event. The only real championship that I would question for the next live event would be the tag titles, because to me, it's pretty clear that we're going to have a triple threat match for the women's championship, Banks, Charlotte, and Bayley. And then the world titles is going to be Zayn Neville. And then tag title, obviously, we're going to have the Vaudevillains go after those in the immediate future, but I don't know if that feud is going to last long enough to have a match at the next live special.
I'd love to see, if the Vaudevillains are out of the picture by then when the next live special comes around, either Ty Dillinger and Jason Jordan or a very heel Mechanics tag team going after it.
That'd be very interesting, but I have this gut feeling that the Mechanics are going to be more than just the term mechanic is going to apply in more than just the good in the ring way.
I have to completely agree with you there. Or a team that, again, I mentioned a little while back because they're still doing live events. Let's not forget about Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy, that team that can just
let's go ahead and forget about them.
I'm just saying, man, it's a crowded class. So,
not really. I mean, those two guys, let's be honest with ourselves, John, they're not relevant right now.
They're not relevant right now, dude.
And even though NXT does have the ability to take somebody from obscurity and make them relevant relatively quickly, I don't think those are the guys that they would do that with. I do think that if they would choose to go that route where they're taking somebody from like zero to somebody, it would be with the Mechanics.
Well, let's hope that you're right, because I was just about to use that against you. I was about to say that I don't think you're taking into account that NXT has that ability, to go from obscurity to relevance. But since you did point that out, I think maybe it's just more of a confidence issue at the end of the day in Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy that they would get that nod. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I think just even having this discussion shows the interest and the intrigue in the divisions right now. So kudos to you, NXT.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would give them kudos, because it really is more about just having a bunch of teams where only one of them has any credibility at this point, obviously excluding the champions themselves. And really, like, I almost have to wonder if they're just going to do, like, the Vaudevillains program for the next month and a half, and then the Ascension again, and just have them maybe like a tag team triple threat match. I don't know.
That could be. I mean, there are so many possibilities. It really is just a matter of which one is the NXT creative team going to utilize.
Right.
Going forward.
To me, those are the only three teams that are relevant in the tag division right now, though, because Like, you look at Enzo and Big Cass, and you have Sylvester Lafort and Marcus Louis, and then Dillinger and Jordan, and the Mechanics, and all of these teams, they're teams, sure, but nobody would believe any of these teams being legitimate tag title contenders right now.
Right.
So, and I think that the teams out of the ones that I just named with the lowest chance of getting into the tag title hunt are Enzo and Cass and Lafort and Louis. But actually, I shouldn't even say that, because I could see them building up Lafort and Louis as heels. I even said that going into TakeOver Fatal 4-Way, that I could really easily see them giving one of those guys, I think it was Lafort at the time, the win so that they could give him credibility to build the two of them up for a tag title shot.
Right, because I could see those guys lugging around the titles at some point, just being the heel foreigners that nobody wants to see lugging around championship gold. But again, just the idea that we've discussed any of these possibilities just shows the diversity and the potential. It's just a matter of, like, when are they going to tap into it? Because I think you said it best. Vaudevillains are immediate future. In the distant future, right now it's just a black void where everything seems obscure, but folks will
And the
come
crazy
in
thing
time.
is, when you say distant future, it's not even that far from now. We're talking like 2 months and a week. So I would even go as far as to say 9 weeks. It's not that far out.
Right.
That's what's crazy to me, is that we're basically talking about 9 weeks. That's 8 episodes of NXT between now and the next live special. It's not that far out.
Yeah, certainly not. It'll go by like that.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what's going to come into focus when it does go by like that.
Exactly.
So,
all right. So let's go ahead and move on here. We've lingered here for far too long. Up next, we had a brief Sami Zayn promo just talking about his upcoming match against Titus O'Neil. He does kind of tease little heelish things here, like insulting Titus because he has the feud with the Bunny and that kind of stuff. But other than that, pretty innocent promo. It's pretty much just Sami Zayn talking about how he feels like Titus O'Neil doesn't have that much credibility and he shouldn't be that difficult of an opponent.
yeah, I really can't blame Sami Zayn for this promo here. I think, again, he's very territorial,
He's
protecting
pretty
his
much
turf.
just saying everything that the fans are already thinking.
Right. And, it's the fact that, hey, this guy on Raw, what's he doing? He's not winning championships. He's not headlining anything. He's feuding with Peter Cottontail, more or less.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think Sammy in his mind just figured this would be an easy day at the office. He expressed that. I enjoyed this promo. I've enjoyed edgier Sami Zayn. So, yeah, big ups to this.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I think one of the biggest appeals to Sami Zayn is that he is a human being. He isn't this golden boy. Yeah, his character is that he's a nice guy, but he's got a breaking point, and he's not, like I said, he's not this golden boy where he's just nice to everyone all the time, no matter what else is going on around him. His personality reflects a real human being's personality based on circumstances.
I mean, he's jaded right now. I mean, we're talking about a jaded human being because he was in an eyelash of fulfilling a dream that he's had ever since he showed up in NXT. And in his mind, he doesn't have time for this crap. He wants to get past Titus O'Neil so he can get to Adrian Neville, and he can finally win the championship the way he wants to win it, off of the guy that he wants to beat. And to him, I think he just views a guy like Titus O'Neil as background noise, and he doesn't conceal that fact, which, to complete the circle and return to your point, is a very human response. So great progression here from Sami Zayn and just how he handles situations, how he internalizes them, how he reacts to them. Just great all around.
Absolutely. Up next was Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks. Not going to talk about the problems that I had with Becky Lynch because we already discussed those. So let's just talk about the great stuff that happened in this match, namely Sasha Banks whipping out the Ted DiBiase Jr. clothesline where she heads into the ropes as her opponent's coming out of them, and then they turn around and she clobbers them on the way back, and using that move as a setup to her backcracker crossface combination.
Which she calls the Banks statement.
Well, that was just the crossface.
Yes. But, yeah, Excellent sequence there. Love how the wealthy-esque people stick together. Using a move from Ted DiBiase Jr. does Sasha Banks. I mean,
You know
it's
what? I
just
didn't
all over
even
the place.
think of that, but that is a brilliant observation, and if they did that on purpose, a brilliant little detail.
So yeah, good on Sasha. And you know what? This just goes back to kind of what we were saying earlier about the tag titles. What I love about NXT is they actually have a ladder in place, and each participant kind of occupies their own little rung while the champion stands atop. I'm getting, I wouldn't say sick because I think that's hyperbolic and overly visceral, but it does get tedious when the path to contendership on the main roster is, oh, you beat the champion. When on NXT you see, like, Sasha Banks is slowly making that ascent, because I would say Becky Lynch is bottom rung, and I don't say that to be mean-spirited. I just
No,
think,
but really, I mean, of all of the divas or women on NXT who have ever been on the show, and rather than just like the backstage hands like the Veronica Lane and even like Carmella and these women, of the women that have actually had in-ring appearances on the show, yeah, Becky Lynch is the bottom rung.
So, Sasha Banks beat her. I'd love to see maybe, down the line in another number one contenders match, maybe Bayley versus Sasha again, but then Sasha beats Bayley, and then they get their one-on-one match, and then down the line even further, we do get that triple threat that you've been teasing, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, and Bayley. But it's just great to see in the present moment Sasha Banks making this ascent in a more traditional way, rather than just, oh, did you see that? I beat Charlotte, title shot for me. It gives it a sense of authenticity, and for me personally, it gives a sense of anticipation, because I'm like, well, how many more matches is it going to take for Sasha Banks to put her stake in the ground and say, I deserve an NXT Women's Championship match? It creates compelling TV for me.
Well, I would say next in line is Alexa Bliss for Sasha.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think Becky and Alexa are pretty much in the same territory as far as bottom rung goes, but they kind of have built Alexa Bliss up a little bit more as feisty and somebody that can steal a win from you if she can catch you sleeping on her.
Right.
So I would say them, and then maybe even Carmella, if she ends up being ready for in-ring competition in time for Sasha to kind of have her in her sight on the way to the championship.
I would agree with that. I think it's going to make Sasha Banks in the long run seem like more of a legitimate threat to Charlotte, because I piled up all these bodies for the purpose to climb on top of them to get to you. And I think that makes for a great heel contender. And I can't wait for the first one-on-one outing between Sasha and Charlotte. It's been teased forever, and I think these two women will really deliver when the time comes.
Yeah, absolutely. Up next, we jumped straight from match to match with Titus O'Neil versus Sami Zayn being our main event of the evening, and up next.
This match was interesting, Ashton, because part of me did get a little irritated, to steal a phrase from you, about Titus O'Neil channeling his inner Ezekiel Jackson. But you know something? I really liked how much of a monster they made Titus look like, imposing his will, his strength, his size upon Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn was just the perfect foil for this kind of a job, because he sells so beautifully, and nobody does an underdog better than Sami Zayn. I've heard for years people say, the likes of a Rey Mysterio being the ultimate underdog, but I think Sami Zayn takes that to just a whole nother level entirely.
And the big difference with Zayn is that he's actually an underdog, because he actually loses more matches than he wins.
He really does. I mean, the proof was here tonight. I mean, not to get ahead of my gun here, but Titus O'Neil does beat Sami Zayn, guys.
Yeah, and can I just say, I feel like this match was pretty much the best match that Titus O'Neil can possibly have.
Oh, without question.
Like, I think we saw Titus O'Neil, like, literally hit his peak tonight. He's never going to have a better match than what he just did.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I felt like the story was on point, you know, of Sammy trying to fight back against the far more imposing opponent. Titus just exerting his will as if it was effortless, like he could do it all day. But then the comeback from Sami Zayn, I think, hit the right emotional chords, you know, with the audience. But then the finish, because, you know, it showed that Titus saw an opening, because Sammy was trying to go for that DDT where he has the arm and then he just vaults over the ropes and then onto the guy and nails the DDT. Well, Titus trips Sami Zayn up and he gets caught up in the ropes, and then Titus, from that launching point with Zayn, hits the Clash of the Titus, you know, that power bomb, and he actually gets the pin, which, for me, Ashton, in the grander scheme of things, confirms my suspicions that we will be getting 1 to 2 TV matches at least between Titus O'Neil and Adrian Neville for the NXT Championship.
Yeah, most likely, yeah.
He's the new Brodus Clay in this situation.
Right.
But, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Again, maybe I got a little, like, here and there about Titus with the repetitive offense, but you know what? That's where commentary runs in and plays great defense, to my annoyance, because you even commended Jason Alpert on tonight's episode. Like, he had great commentary, and I particularly noted it for how he was building up Titus. Like, he said he came in with a game plan, and he's sticking to the game plan, and just really highlighting the positives of Titus's strategy, you know, the bear hugs and the scoop slams and everything else. And yeah, I just think it was just a really nice David versus Goliath-esque matchup that didn't have all the sappiness and everything else going into a typical David versus Goliath-esque matchup. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been kind of sitting here looking at Sami Zayn's record, and yeah, it seems like, I won't say he loses more than he wins, but it definitely seems like he's at right around, he's kind of hovering around that 500 mark where he wins just as many matches as he loses. Whereas when you look at John Cena, I feel like the last time he lost a match clean was in like 2009. Like, it's that kind of situation.
I will say, I understand completely why Sami Zayn lost. In fact, I think you said this too, Ashton, if I'm not mistaken. You know, the rule for Sami Zayn fans is kind of like a lot of, you know, the same rule as for Dean Ambrose fans. You know, just always expect, you know, to come up on the losing end, even when you really want to win. I was a little concerned because we talked about the promo earlier, and Sammy really seemed to downplay Titus, and you and I have had conversations about this before, about the art of promo talking.
Yep.
And, you know, I always cite Chris Jericho's book, how he was working one territorial event, and he was just running down the guy, and then he got chewed out. Like, why would you say that about your opponent? Because then if you beat him, who did you beat? And then if you lose, well, what do you look like? And I kind of fear we stepped into similar territory here with Sammy's remarks, but I think at the end of the day, we have to remember the bigger overarching story. Sami Zayn is a man of struggle. Struggle is his life. He will never know a day with it absent. And I think it's going to be maybe seeing Adrian Neville succeed, maybe even by shiftier means, because they do seem to be pigeonholing.
Yeah, John, I wanted to ask you, did we get an NXT a couple weeks ago, maybe even 3 weeks ago, where Titus and Tyson Kidd teamed up and they beat Neville and Zayn as a tag team?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so as of right now, since the first NXT takeover, and this is including that show, Sami Zayn is 6-8. 7-8 if you count the match on Raw where he teamed with Neville and they beat Kidd and Breeze. So yeah, he's right under that 500 mark where he would be winning the same as amount as he's been losing. So I because of the fact that I feel like WWE wants him to be around that 500 mark, they're probably going to have him win a couple matches now in the future. But I really do want to emphasize that he loses just as many, if not more matches than he wins.
And let's not just think about quantity here, Ashton, when we're talking about that. He loses more significant matches than he wins significant matches.
Right. Yeah. I mean
that's
a lot of his wins tend to be relatively trivial. Like, his wins are, I mean, just since NXT TakeOver, like I said, he's beaten Tyson Kidd, Justin Gabriel. He has that win over Bo when he was Mr. NXT to get him to freak out and that kind of stuff. And CJ Parker and Marcus Louis. And it's like one of those things where, sure, he has these wins, but does it really matter?
It really doesn't. They're paltry victories, and I think Sami Zayn himself knows it, because when it always comes to game time and matches that he really wants to win, think the rivalry with Cesaro. Anytime he's pursued the NXT Championship, he's always come up short. So even if he did get to the 500 mark, as you've been saying, we also have to look at the quality of those victories to get there.
I mean, realistically, Sami Zayn has been booked like a mid-carder who just happens to be in a lot of championship matches.
Yeah.
Because the way he's been booked, he is very clearly a notch below the main eventers on the NXT roster, but a clear cut above the lower mid-carders as well.
I think what I love best about Sami Zayn, and this is going to be like my last soundbite before we wrap this section of the show up, is that he reminds me so much of like early 2000s Chris Jericho, specifically when the Invasion was going on and he was feuding with The Rock. There was this big question when Rock was WCW champion. Can Chris Jericho win the big one? You know, because he was always like that under the radar kind of guy. Great performer, did this and that, but could he ascend to that next level? And that's exactly where I see Sami Zayn with Adrian Neville kind of casting that shadow that The Rock did for Jericho in their life. You know, can Sami Zayn win the big one? And I think you and I wholeheartedly believe he can, as do so many other people. But every time he gets the chance, whether it's one-on-one or hell, you could throw 3 other guys in the mix,
he
just
blows
always
it.
comes up short. Yeah, he chokes. And, you know, not even the fact that he chokes, sometimes outside circumstances. Look at NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way. Adrian Neville pulling the referee out of the ring. It's just,
Right.
There's always seems to be
Yeah, but
some
also,
kind of
I mean, if you want to look back at TakeOver, he lost to Tyler Breeze clean.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's just a matter of he's that guy that's so good, so great, and yet on the one night when he has to be at his absolute best.
Yeah, I mean, even tonight, he lost to Titus O'Neil clean.
Titus O'Neil, the same guy who, and this isn't me, this is Sami Zayn, you know, even said like he's feuding with a bunny on Raw.
Yeah.
And yet he beat you after you had a tremendous outing at NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way where you set the arena on fire. And yet now you're getting pinned cleanly by that. And I'm not trying to be caustic. I'm just throwing his words back at him. Yeah. And it brings us back to the central theme. Can you win the big one? Because anytime you even try and climb up that mountain, rolling that boulder up of championship contention, it always seems to roll back down and you have to begin the effort all over again. And it's painful when you put it in that respect and you really sympathize with this guy because you think, how much is it going to take? But that's why I feel like if we get Sami Zayn versus Adrian Neville, I don't know if you put a step on it the first time around. If you do, if you don't, but it's going to be something. Because
absolutely.
It might just be one of Sami Zayn's last NXT championship matches. Because, Ashton, we have to really be realistic here. I know you and I love Sami Zayn to death, but how much longer can you continue this story this way? You know, you're either going to give him the championship at a certain point, or I just really don't see any purpose in it at all. And that's just me. Maybe you have a differing view, but I don't think you can continue this much longer. I feel like his go-around with Adrian Neville could be the last go-around. So I'm very interested where that goes.
Yeah, I'm very interested in where it goes too. I don't think there's a limit on how many times they can freaking run this thing into the ground as long as people still care about Zayn.
And that's kind of what I'm concerned about, because Sami Zayn is so likable. But how long do you go on a journey with somebody before you just feel like you're not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel? Like, I think, personally, I don't think they'll ever not be invested in Zayn. I just think that it may come a point where they're no longer invested in Zayn's ambitions. I think they'll go one step higher and they'll say, you know what, he's never winning the NXT Championship. Can we just get him on Raw, please? Or can we just get him on SmackDown? Right. So I think they'll always be invested in Zayn, but I think Zayn's ambitions are independent of that, and that's an entirely different case.
Yeah, that's understandable. I can agree with that.
All right, so unless you have anything else to say about this match, we can go on to our next segment.
Get to getting.
All right, our next segment, high spots and low shots. And hell, I mean, we just talked it to death. My low shot is Sami Zayn.
Yeah, that's perfectly understandable. Mine's not going to be just because I'm going to revel in mine.
Right. I mean, you got a guy in Sami Zayn was trash-talking his opposition. Everything he said was true, which made the loss all the more heartbreaking. Can Sami Zayn ever get back in championship territory? And the bigger question, because they've shown the differences between him and Neville, is Sami Zayn going to have to compromise his ethics to get what he wants. I doubt it, but you never know. So he is my low shot tonight.
My low shot is Mojo Rawley because he got beat, he got broken, and he got pussified by the ref.
Yeah, you know what? I never get tired of hearing Mojo Rawley and low shot in the same sentence, especially with the words "is my" in between them. It's quite glorious.
That's quite the sequence of words.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
Proud
I could say it tonight.
Yeah, you know I can be quite verbose, and I do love your low shot, so excellent choice. But now we go to the winner's circle, baby. We go to the high spots. And for me, you know what? I'm going to be a little different. I'm going to show my guys some love. My high spot is the Vaudevillains.
Aha!
They keep having a tremendous record, their only loss being to a team that would go on to become the current NXT Tag Team Champions in the Lucha Dragons. They beat Enzo Amore and Big Cass, where while they lack credibility, sure, they still are a fan favorite, so it's always something, to have a little chip on your shoulder about. I definitely see a tag title shot in their future, and those titles will certainly bring some color to their world. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to throw it out there. Kind of an honorable low shot for me would be Hideo Itami. He had a pretty rough freaking night.
Yeah, definitely.
But my high spot is Sasha Banks, the boss.
Love it. Love it so much. Yes.
Between whipping out that DiBiase Jr. clothesline and we finally have new theme music and a new name for her finisher. The whole package has come together. She's gotten her, branding down now, and now it's just full steam ahead, man.
Ashton, you just summed up why this is so amazing. I mean, as you said, all the pieces have come together for Sasha now. She has a complete identity. No lack, no absence. She's complete. And she's complete independently. She doesn't need the BFFs now to assimilate her identity. She doesn't need any other faction or to leech off of any kind of group or anything like that. She's now going to go on her own. And I think this is a day that you and I have really eagerly anticipated for her. And she takes the first step with tremendous success with a victory over Becky Lynch. I'm in love. Let's get Sasha Banks versus Charlotte off the ground as soon as possible. Cannot wait for it. Excellent choice for
Telling you, man, it's not going to be just a one-on-one. They're going to have a triple threat match involving Bayley.
See, and I believe a triple threat is coming, but I believe you have to give Sasha Banks a one-on-one match. A one-on-one match, to me, has to come down the line. Maybe the triple threat does come before it, but I think Sasha Banks has to get a one-on-one championship opportunity.
I guess the way I see it, I think that they're not going to need a one-on-one because I think Sasha's going to win it during the triple threat.
Oh, I hope
so. Maybe the one-on-one comes after that, and it's with Sasha as champion, but I genuinely think she's going to win it if they do a triple threat.
Dude, I am so ready for Sasha Banks to be NXT Women's Champion. So I personally hope you're right from a fandom perspective. Even from an objective perspective, I don't think it would be bad to have Charlotte drop the title there. But If they have her keep it, all the better. I'm loving how NXT really has strong, confident champions. It's a very attractive quality for their product. But with that said, not to draw on too much, do you have anything else you want to say about this NXT before we close out?
No, sir.
All right, guys, this has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube, discuss on Tweet Off, and we will see you again for our Monday Night Raw review, where hopefully it doesn't have as many cringeworthy segments as it did the week prior. We'll be here to cover it. Peace out.